500 miles. Not long ago, that would have sounded almost impossible for an electric vehicle. Today, it feels inevitable. Every new generation seems to arrive with another 50 miles, another 100 miles, and the assumption has been remarkably consistent. If range has always been the biggest objection to electric vehicles, then more range must be the answer. But I don't think a 500-mile EV suddenly creates millions of new buyers. If someone has already decided that an electric vehicle doesn't fit their life, another 100 miles probably doesn't change that decision. That leaves us with an interesting problem. Automakers don't spend billions of dollars solving problems that they have an answer to already. If 500 miles isn't dramatically expanding the market, why does the industry keep chasing it? The obvious answer is that more range is simply better, and there is plenty of evidence that supports that. If you tow or live where winter temperatures routinely reduce battery performance, or your favorite destinations take you through areas where charging stations are sparse, additional range can matter. Those aren't hypothetical situations. They're real and they expand what an electric vehicle is capable of doing. That's exactly what happened with the earliest EVs. A car that could travel 150 miles on a charge asked a lot of its owner. It required planning, and some road trips just weren't practical. Other trips demanded a whole bunch of compromises, and adding another 100 miles fundamentally changed the ownership experience because it unlocked things that the previous generation simply couldn't do. The next 100 miles continued that trend, but by the time we are talking about 450 or 500 miles, we're no longer asking what trips become possible. I mean, think about how most people actually drive their cars. Very few of us drive 500 miles without stopping. That's nearly 8 hours behind the wheel. We stop for meals, coffee, fuel, restrooms, or simply because we're tired. A much more common pattern is the weekend day trip. We drive 120 miles somewhere, spend the afternoon, and then we drive home. Or we make a 250-mile day trip with a few extra stops along the way. Suddenly, a 300-mile battery doesn't start to feel small because the destination is too far away. It feels small because there isn't much left in reserve. And that reserve turns out to matter. We don't expect to use it every day, but we want it because life rarely follows the plan we made that morning. The weather changes, a road closes, or you decide you want to make one more stop before heading home. The battery isn't just supporting the trip you intended to take, it's protecting you from the one you didn't know you were going to make. But there's another difference between gasoline and electricity that doesn't get talked about, even though it's pretty obvious. Unlike chargers, we don't typically have a gas pump in our garage. We stop for gas because we have to make a special trip. As a result, we've learned to use a large portion of the tank before filling it up again. We think that's normal, but it's really just a behavior shaped by inconvenience. So now imagine the opposite. Imagine if you did have a gas pump at home. Every evening you pull into the garage, connected a hose for 30 seconds, and you walked inside, and when you woke up the next morning, you had a full tank of gas. Would you still drive until the gauge dropped to a quarter tank before filling it up? Probably not. You top it off whenever it was convenient because convenience changes behavior. That's exactly what home charging does. A long-range EV doesn't encourage you to drive farther every day. It changes how you think about charging. You plug in because you're home, not because you're near empty. The battery simply bridges the time between convenient opportunities to charge instead of forcing you to maximize every mile. It's kind of like another number we tend to obsess over, 0 to 60 times. Manufacturers proudly publish it. Reviewers measure it under nearly perfect conditions, but owners almost never reproduce it. People still care deeply about it, even though they never expect to launch their car at every stoplight. In essence, people care because it tells them something about the capability that's waiting in reserve. Horsepower, tow rating, and top speed all work the same way. They're specifications that describe potential more than everyday behavior. And I wonder if EV range is beginning to make that same transition. Early on, range answered one question: can this car make this trip? As batteries have grown, it has started answering another question: how much of my life does charging occupy? One measures distance and the other measures effort. That's what mature technology tends to do. We usually think progress means doing more, But just as often, it can mean just asking less of us. Automatic transmissions removed one more thing for drivers to manage, and fuel injection replaced carburetors without most people ever noticing. The best technology often fades into the background because it demands so little of our attention, and maybe that's where EV range is headed too. It's probably not a magical number where everybody finally agrees it's enough, but towing, cold weather, and charging deserts will all still matter. But for most of us, the biggest benefit of a 500-mile battery may not be that we finally drive 500 miles. It may be that we stop thinking about whether we could. This is Wrench and Reason, where we explain how modern cars actually work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.